Let's pray. Father God, I thank you for another day of life, another day to wake up and to breathe and to serve you and to serve our community. I just pray that we would all really focus today and use every bit of wisdom that you give us to talk about things and to decide what's best for our county and for the residents of the county. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Begin with a couple of housekeeping issues. Number one, unfortunately, Councilwoman King could not be here today due to a family health emergency. And it's doubly unfortunate because today would have been her last day on the council. She did decide not to run again, so we just want to appreciate everything that Dawn has done over the last, I believe, 10 or 11 years. She actually was caucused on to the council after the death of the previous office holder. But Dawn has done a great job and been a great asset to DeKalb County, and we appreciate her service, and we wish her all the best. And then we want to go on to the minutes of the November 8th, 2022 meeting. And I have a motion to accept those minutes as presented. Been moved by Councilman Yard. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Dembski. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. That motion is carried. Next, you all have at your seats your nepotism certification that you need to sign every year. And if you would do that and before, pass them around and we'll give them to Carla as they get here. Next, and this is, congratulations need to go to our auditor and all of our department and department heads. It's December and we have no additionals. That has never happened. That's good planning, good budgeting, and good use of their funds in each one of our departments. So we'll not have any additionals, and we'll go on to the transfer requests. And the first transfer is from County General. This is for the coroner's office. To the DeKalb County Council, I need to move money from account 33235 transport funds into the deputy coroner pay account 11255. This transfer is to pay a transport tech that is a county employee. We have money in the transport account available, so no additional funds will be needed. The total needing to be moved is $750. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you, Mike Gerber, DeKalb County Coroner. I have a motion to approve this transfer. And moved by Councilman Yard. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Kraft. Discussion? Comment from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor of this transfer signify by saying aye. Opposed, same. That motion is carried. And the next one comes to us from the Probation Department to the DeKalb County Council. Please consider the following transfer from County General Fund in lieu of request for additional appropriations. Joni LaRue has received her master's degree as of August 1, 2022, pursuant to the 2022 minimum salary schedule for probation officers implemented by the Judicial Conference of Indiana. A probation officer having a master's degree and a minimum of 5 years as an Indiana probation officer shall receive an additional 5% of their base salary each year. In order to accomplish this, the request to transfer funds from the overtime account to Officer LaRoe's payroll account is being made in lieu of requesting an additional appropriation. Transfer from 1001.11050 overtime $980. Transfer to 1001.11509 probation officer. A payroll change form will be completed and forwarded to the payroll. Sincerely, Michael Lapham, Chief Probation Officer. Can I have a motion to approve this transfer?
So moved.
Been moved by Councilman Van Wy. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Yard. Comment from the public? Hearing none. All those in favor of this transfer signify by saying aye. Opposed, same. That motion is carried. Next transfer comes to us from Central Communications, and this comes from the Public Safety Lowit Fund. Central Communications will be transferring the following funds within our Lowit account. We will be transferring $25,000 from 1170.11477 dispatch trainer to account 1170.11050 overtime. This transfer is to cover the end of the year shortfall within the overtime account. Thank you for your consideration. Brian Humbarger, Director. I have a motion to approve this transfer. And moved by Councilman Yard. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Dembski. Discussion?
Are they short enough they have to use overtime now?
They've had some change in staff, but they're pretty much close to full staff now. Comment from the public? Hearing none. All in favor of this transfer signify by saying aye.
Yeah.
Opposed, same. That motion is carried. Next, this comes from the Highway Department, and this is from through the Highway Fund. The Highway Department would like to request a transfer of $7,500. Transfer from 1176.11050 overtime. Transfer into 1176.11470 equipment operator. This transfer is due to a shortage in the account at year end. Thank you, Ben Parker, Superintendent, DeKalb County Highway. I have a motion to approve this transfer. Motion by Councilman Kraft. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second by Councilman Van Wy. Discussion?
Why are we short in an equipment operator? Is there a reason? Didn't we have enough money in there, or?
I'd have to look at it. I would guess. Remember, I know he had somebody leave, so we had him pay out.
Okay.
So then when he
Oh, it's between the PT and that. Okay. Thank you, Susan.
Any other discussion? Comment from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor of this transfer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. That motion is carried. All right. That is all of the transfers. I didn't see Randy come in. Were you able to talk to him?
Yeah, he said he was.
He's outside.
Is he?
Yeah, he's standing right out the door.
All right, well, we're 15 minutes early. Don, could you? Oh, there he is. Okay. We're 15 minutes early, Randy. Yeah,
Come on up.
you're on.
Click
Good
the microphone on, please. Thank you.
Sold. Well, I made it. I've been revalved.
I knew you were going to have that done, but I wasn't sure when.
Wednesday, actually,
Wednesday,
last.
last Wednesday, a whole week.
Yeah,
That's pretty good for major heart surgery.
works really nice, yes. This one was a lot less invasive, shall we say.
That's good.
Okay. Well, good morning. The airport board, I missed last month, so if there were any questions on the last report, I can provide that as well. I did have Susan put the report in your packet. The grade and drain portion of the runway is done. So pending some funding issues that the FAA has thrown up at us again, we should be paving that 2,000 feet of the runway and having that open sometime next year, which we will all be happy with. All the trees and stuff are out. I got an email day before yesterday. Apparently, the little buildings that house the airport precision approach equipment are either out of date, unable to be moved, whatever. So we have to now find replacements for those so that the precision approach can be there, which we really want for all the non-commercial jets that are going to be coming into us. So that's underway. Sweet Aviation became our fixed base operator November 1st. And so far, they've been meeting and exceeding our expectations on customer service and availability. They'll be building out their services, bringing some of their fleet of aircraft up to our airport from Smithfield and begin operations from there on a fairly regular basis. Meese Chapel, apparently the property the church sits on was actually in two small pieces, or one big piece and one little piece. And the little piece, they were going back to the 1880s or 1890s, I believe, to find any documentation on who owned that piece of property, who transferred it to the church. And so the title search has been going on for an extended period of time, but we believe it's taken care of now, and we should be closing on the Meese Chapel Church purchase any day now. Our attorney has been empowered to go ahead and do that at the earliest possible date. And we hope that our county historian will post haste begin some processes if they want to move that building to get that done. We're not in a crisis mode for it by any stretch of the imagination, but we do have a waiting list for hangars. And once the runway extension is done, hangar production and hangar construction will probably be our next focus. All the storm sewers on the airport have been repaired, so we don't have any standing water anywhere in the airport. Everything runs and goes where it's supposed to, and we are ready for snow. I'm
glad you are.
The airport is ready for snow. It is my intention this year to go ahead and take a ride with Russ sometime when the broom has to go out. I guess this thing's like 28 feet long, and it's got a big diesel motor that just runs the broom that pushes the snow off the side. Plus, there's a blade on the front of the truck, and it's quite an operation, I guess. So we've been offered the opportunity to do that. I'm probably going to take them up on it. We have awarded the paving contract, and anticipation there's another competitive grant that we are applying for to cover the remainder of the runway extension paving project that's available yet this year. It's a nationwide grant, but we've got priority because our project is 2/3 of the way done. So we're hoping to secure the final financing with that. Otherwise, first of the year, we start over trying to secure that last little portion we need to do the rest of the extension. So that one's underway. And we are going to approach the Plan Commission with a change to the UDO in order to eliminate future issues with standing water in our approach and departure areas. And lastly, the runway was actually, at the airport, was closed about 50% of October and November. Whenever the construction folks were within a certain distance of the runway, Russ and or Jason had to go out. They issued a closure on the runway for that time so the guys could move their equipment around and not get hit by airplanes or, run into airplanes and damage them. So, but we still had, 96 business jets come in and out in November, 164 helicopter operations, 29 multi-engine, and 844 single-engine operations. And again, that single-engine number fluctuates, but this one, we basically turned off all training pretty much for the month of November. A lot of pilots come up and in order to maintain your license, you must do 3 takeoffs and 3 landings every 90 days. And if you want to do it at night, you have to do 3 takeoffs and 3 landings to a full stop every 90 days in order to maintain your license. We shut all that down during the construction because we just couldn't be opening and closing the runway and chasing the construction guys away because a student pilot needs to do a touch and go. So with that, I'll take any questions.
I know you said this once, but they're planning on paving the whole runway, right?
Yes. Well, we're going to do the 2,000-foot extension.
Yeah.
And then hopefully the following year, then we'll do an overlay on the entire 7,000 feet.
Overlay, you're not going to tear it up. You're just
No,
going to put overlay
no.
right over the whole stuff.
No, at this point, it's an overlay.
Okay.
Russ and Jason and the guys have been out constantly patching the runway to keep it usable and serviceable. It's kind of a monthly deal where they go out and spend a couple days almost fixing all the holes to make sure that it's safe for the aircraft to go in and out. So yes, it's going to be then, and that part of that money comes from the state.
That'll be a shutdown.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to be down for somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 days when they do the paving next summer. It just can't be done any other way.
Oh, yeah, I understand that.
We're going to have recessed lighting in the runway now so that they can plow over stuff and all the lighting that has to go down along the sides, and then the precision approach equipment has to be installed and aligned. And so
In other words, when you get ready to repave, you got to go through and set your lights in.
they're going to set the lights into the surface, and there'll be lights along the side as well.
Well, you said here your lighting project is completed. Is that for the whole new runway and the old?
No. The paving lighting project is all one thing.
Uh-huh.
So once it happens, the pavement goes down, the lights go in the runway, and the lights go alongside the runway, and that's the entire project.
Okay, thank you.
They're going to have maintenance facilities available for anybody. We also have Paratus areas also on the airport property, and they provide the same service. But as of today, Suite didn't have the capability to immediately transfer. And so if someone comes in and says they need, immediate assistance with an aircraft, Suite calls down to Smith, and they have somebody here in 20 minutes to do whatever repairs would need to be done until they can move a mechanic up here full time.
They have their own building now?
Suite?
Yeah.
No, they're using they lease the terminal. And as a part of their lease, we gave each room and space within the terminal had a certain value. And they chose which areas and offices and things that they wanted to lease. And that's part of so they're in the terminal actually, and that's their area because they're paying us to be there.
On the stats, the helicopter, that's all Samaritan, or are there other helicopters besides Samaritan?
Well, Paratus is a service center for Robinson helicopters. And so they fly helicopters in and out. Paratus has 2 helicopters that they fly regularly. And then, of course, Samaritan comes in and out on a fairly regular basis. Samaritan has a hangar complex on the airport. We've got a 50-year lease with them, and they have space for 2 helicopters to reside at the airport, and then a second bay that's just strictly for maintenance. And then they have their quarters there, so when the guys are on duty, like we used to do with the ambulance, they stay right there at the hangar with the helicopter. If bad weather, things, icing conditions, that they don't want the machines sitting outside, they come back up to Auburn, put them in the hangar, and that's where they stay until they're called out.
Any other questions for Randy? If not, Randy, the one thing that is going to come up here in a little while that you can take back to Russ, starting in January, your council liaison will be changed.
Okay?
It will be Rick Collins.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Right?
All right.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I don't know, was the sheriff-elect going to be here for this contract, or, okay. All right. Next item of business is the sheriff's contract for 2023. And, okay, Brady has already signed this.
Brady signed it, and commissioners approved it yesterday.
Okay. And this is, well, and I'll just read this first line out of here. The sheriff will be paid a fixed amount of compensation in place of fee compensation in accordance with IC 36-2-13-2.8 in the amount of 70% of the full-time prosecutor's salary, which calculates to $115,693 for calendar 2023. So we need a motion to approve the sheriff's contract. Then, motion been made by Councilwoman Prosser. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Kraft. Discussion?
115, that's the sheriff or the prosecuting?
That's the sheriff. That's 70% of the sheriff.
It's 70% of the prosecutor.
So we got a new prosecutor, new sheriff, and yet their salaries go up.
The
prosecutors
prosecutors
pay
is set by the state.
State, yes.
And-
And the sheriff's
Yeah,
is set by statute.
Of the state based upon the size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And remember, the way the sheriff used to be paid,
Oh, I know.
was, we got collection of back taxes, the amount of food budget that was left at the end of the year, things like that. So this is a much better arrangement for the sheriff's pay.
This is all set, all this is a formality
Yeah.
vote, right?
Pretty much.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, it's something that legislature is probably going to deal with again, because there are counties that will not do, or the sheriffs that will not do a contract, that they still want to collect the taxes and the food budgets and things like that. That became an issue last year, and it'll be addressed again this year, almost pushing this as a mandatory. So, I got a motion and a second, but I don't have a vote yet, right?
Correct.
All right, discussion? Comment from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor of the sheriff's contract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same, that motion is carried. Right. Next item is the salary and wage ordinance for 2023. Second, you guys have a paper copy, or? No, might be easier to read that than read it offline. Yeah, I got it online here. Yeah, that's better. Still just as small as it is on the screen.
I know.
Ordinance, let's see, 2023 salary and hourly wage ordinance, DeKalb County Council, ordinance 2022-OCC-8. The DeKalb County Council hereby establishes the following salary and hourly wage ordinance to become effective for pay period 12/18/2022 to 12/31/2022, paid on 1/3/2023 through pay period 12/3/23 to 12/16/2023, paid on 12/29/2023. It is further ordained that all salaries and wages shall be paid biweekly, 26 pays. It is further ordained that any employee hired after the date of this ordinance will have one pay period withheld for audit purposes. It is further ordained that compensation of employees and elected officials may include, but is not limited to, a stipend, health insurance, health savings account, match, professional certifications, educational advancements, and per diems regardless of the source of funds for which the money is paid. It is further ordained that the raises set forth in this ordinance are contingent on employment evaluations from the elected official or department head and submitted to Human Resources prior to the year ending 12/31/2022. It is further ordained that the longevity pay has been established to begin at year 5, increasing every 5 years until 20 years, when the yearly amount remains the same and will be funded. Yeah. And will be funded by the general fund, as the highway, health, central communications funds may not have the funds to cover. 5 to 9 years, $500, 10 to 14 years, $1,000, 15 to 19 years, $1,500, 20 years plus $2,000 will be paid on the first check of December each year. Wherefore, be it ordained the 13th day of December 2022 that the employee will be paid within the range represented below and cannot be lower than the federal minimum wage up to and not to exceed the maximum dollar amount set forth in this ordinance unless amended. Now, all right, can I have a motion to approve salary ordinance 2022-OCC-8 on first reading? And everything that I read about the longevity pay is up for discussion. So that's what's in there for right now. That can change.
Correct.
And moved by Councilman Kraft. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Yard. All right, discussion. Now, let's, do we want to discuss the ranges, or do we want to just talk about the longevity pay? Kind of keep this all in one direction. Pardon? Okay.
There's been a lot of
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
That was just a starting point as to when I was pulling and giving examples that I had sent and put on your guys' portal area. So that was just to get the verbiage in there, and the amounts and everything is then what you guys will decide today. But that was, so it was part of the ordinance going forward.
We do have, Amy, we do have, and you should have it in your packet, you know, it's got the $500, that was the original proposal, $350 and $250, using those increments. So,
I know that we were tasked with looking at longevity pay, and whether or not we wanted to even look at that as an option. I guess it's been decided that we are
if we keep it in this ordinance.
have the option to not.
Yeah, that's why I said that part can be changed. We can change the dollar amounts, we can take it out completely. Remember the reason that it came up to begin with. And that is, while I personally, I am very sold on the fact that we did the wage evaluations with WIS. And we set that because we now have something that is objective instead of subjective as far as our salaries. We have several people that lost out on that. And it was never the intention to have somebody lose on doing that study. And we have a few ways that we can take care of their situation. And one of them is we can go in and pick and choose and give that particular individual or that group of individuals a bigger raise than what the WIS study would have called for in order to correct that issue. Because what happened was that they ended up losing money because of the small amount of raise or no raise and the increase in health insurance. So,
Private sector.
well, close to it. It wasn't exactly private sector because we're always behind. I mean, we just can't move that fast. But it's, well, we wanted to get as close to it as we could.
So we were comparable with the 2022 study that WIS provided to us, which is where you aim to go, but that wouldn't really be what, it'd be higher than where you were able to go for January. You just don't have that study.
We could have given, from that WIS study, we could have given an additional raise because we're talking about 23. They were using numbers of this is where we're at in 22. So we're going to always be behind in some fashion the private sector.
Well,
You
in
know,
the private sector, we have a theory. I mean, not all private sector is
we're doing the best we can. And, you know, for a number of years, we were not able to give anything close to what was the cost of living. So that's why we did this. And it was the feeling, on my part anyway, that if we go in and start manipulating individuals, we're going to cause problems because there's always going to be, well, you know, I was only 20 cents difference or $1 different than that person, and you fixed them, but you didn't fix me. And rather than do that, we've done something, if we use this method, it's uniform across the board, and there's no favoritism one way or the other. So that's why this method was chosen. Now, the dollar amounts, those came from other counties. We can do 500, we can do 250, we can do 350. For that piece of it, I'm not holding to either one of them, any of them.
And so you made the comment, though, this was brought up because there were some individuals that obviously didn't get
Right, they were here,
raise or
they were here and
something.
testified before the council.
Right, correct. And so, but this longevity, and so the idea is that using longevity pay, we could then look at different people and give them additional pay. But this is stating that we would give additional pay for longevity across the board to
It's
everyone.
uniform. It is uniform. You're not picking out and playing favorites with anybody.
Right. But then
That's why.
aren't we in the same position then, that if we give longevity pay across the board to everyone, then those couple people that initially started this conversation who are behind are still behind because everybody is going to get the longevity pay?
They're not behind in that they're not losing money. Everybody is being treated the same,
Correct.
and the issue is, were they losing money?
But they still
Those
wouldn't be the
people will
same.
not be losing money, and they're going to be equal to, if I got 33 years in, I'm going to get this amount, and if you've got only 10 years, then you're getting this amount. It's all the same.
I don't see where those other, and I understand that the reason why there were some individuals who are not making the amount of money that they need to, or even comparable to the private sector, take for instance the IT group. So I understand the need to look at that department maybe a little bit differently. So I'm a little worried about the idea that everybody across the board be equal, because we understand that in the private sector, in order to keep, for instance, IT, we're going to have to maybe look at them differently than we look at everybody else, simply because of the way that that's structured in the private sector. So I go back and forth between is across the board okay, and in reading a lot of the comments that we did in the survey for all of our employees, those that answered, a lot of them weren't looking for longevity pay. A lot of them were looking for benefits that were better. Particularly insurance was the one topic that came up on a consistent basis, which I know the commissioners are working very hard to correct and do the very best that they can with the insurance. So I feel like, are we trying to answer a question or correct an issue that really isn't a big issue at this point? I would be curious to see what the rest of the people thought. I know
That's why it's
you
here.
were.
That's why
you
it's
were
here for discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd echo Amy's comment about the two things we heard pretty loud and clear in the department head meeting that her and I attended was the insurance, increase in insurance was a big deal. That was very important that we try to figure out a way to get that down. And then general increase in pay. I think, regular pay, not just longevity, but they didn't feel like the regular pay was high enough
I
for
didn't see that
some.
one as a big one, but
Yeah.
I mean, I know that this year was, I guess, I come back to this and I know that I'm going to get some eye rolls and big heavy sighs when I say it. But we come back to, we're looking at raising pay, the private sector pay. And many in the private sector are working 40 plus hours a week. And we're trying to compare that with employees who, most of the government here in DeKalb County work 35 hours a week. That's a big amount of change in how many hours that county government workers are working. That's about 6.5 weeks less than the rest of the private sector. So I struggle with giving raises in longevity pay when also I think it's every couple of 5 years that our county government employees are given a lot of extra time off. I think the most, is it after 15 years, it's about a month off. So very quickly, I think we can see that there are a lot of benefits to working for the county, the short week, plus insurance, plus retirement pay. I just struggle with, and now I feel like we're really up to par where we need to be at. So why the extra $500 a year? I guess I'm just not sure. So I'm struggling with that. If anybody has any great answers,
No, and I understand the point you're making, but don't forget, a lot of private industry does have 4 weeks after 15 years or
Sure.
more after that. And when we lose employees, we do not lose employees generally to the local mom and pop business, but we lose employees to SDI, Nucor, Parkview Hospital, Lutheran Hospital. That's what we're competing with. And again, for my part, this is a way that we can fix an issue we had with WIS that was unintended and reward everybody and treat everybody the same, rather than picking and choosing. I don't like picking and choosing winners. That's not what we're here for.
that's what we do with abatements, but that's another, we're going to cover that in a few minutes.
Amy, if you could move your mic closer.
Sorry.
They're having
I just said
problems
that's
hearing.
what we do with abatements. We pick and
That's-
choose winners and losers.
Yes.
I just want to add, whether it's adopted or not, or what level, it's a whole new level of, of transparency here, because it cuts out the singling or the picking and choosing, and this just makes it a pretty even playing field. And if you're going to look at transparency, this is a pretty good tool to do it.
And this is being done by other counties. We're not the only one that's done this.
Well, I was surprised you had it on here. I've talked to the guy across, that's gonna sit next to me, right there. Bob, and I'm not real happy, I'm not unhappy, but I think we either should start at 350 or 400, see how it goes a year or two. Then we have the option to move up to 5. I guarantee you, IT, if one of those 2 guys quit in there, or 3, I know one's retiring, we aren't gonna hire them back, a new one in for what we're gonna pay. And as much as, and the surveyor's office is the same way. They need another person in there, but we can't pay or get someone hired away that's gonna do the job and be a full-time person for what we got on the board. You know, I agree, her points is well taken. But the thing of it is, and also the, what's below us, assessor office, some of their people, and she'll tell you it takes 4 or 5 years to train them. So at the end of the year, and maybe in here too, I don't know, this one's a fast learner, and it takes several years. So I agree with not giving, but a new person coming in, even it is $350, $400, or $500, shouldn't be getting the same as someone that's been here several years, or within a certain amount. You know, you take 500, what is that, $10 a week? You know, it's not a lot, but I would rather see as 300, 400 instead of 5, than go a couple of years, see what it works. You know, go 4, 8. But that's my suggestion. I'd rather have them go that way instead of going 5. I know we use 500, but let's see what it does a year. Let's see what goes on, see how our salaries bounce out next year. With the rate of inflation and everything, it's gonna be another interesting time. It's just like, you know, I'm more irritated over the prosecuting and sheriff's salary than I am about giving these extra people, because we have 2 new ones on, but we can't do anything about it because the state tells us. In the same way with probation. You're looking at probation, you got more education, so you get more money, which I understand that works. But how much more? The state tells us what we gotta pay. So this is the way they keep the people here longer. And you look around in some of the offices in there, there's not a lot of new faces that are young. One of these times we're gonna get hit, and we're not gonna be able to get it, so.
The state paid the prosecutor.
Yes.
They set those, what they pay.
They pay the prosecutor's salary, and it is going to come up in this year's legislature whether or not they'll take over payment of probation. But the dollar amount there for 92 counties is so huge that there is no possibility that they would take over. I mean, they might take over maybe the chief probation officer, but that would be it, because I think the total that we're seeing is like $87 million to take over all the probation salaries throughout the state. So, but it is an issue with many counties that they don't have the money anymore to pay, and with the volume that they've got. So
That wasn't, I know, an issue when we worked on the budget, because where we set our budget at, I think it was 11% increase. Is that right?
well, we went everywhere from 5 to 14%. I think the biggest increases we gave about 14%.
I think there was some
Couple of
about
the departments.
17%.
But it averages out to less than 7. I do remember that.
Right. Right. And I know I raised the question of, you know, with, because the growth quotient that we had was 11%. I think that was what I'm thinking about.
No, the
That's
growth
11.
quotient was 5 something. The 11% was the increase in assessed valuation, which is helpful because we gave tax abatement. That's where the
Right.
DeKalb County people are the winners in that one. We picked that winner.
Yeah, okay. So then we increased the budget by, what, $4 to $5 million?
What was the total increase?
Most of that based on salaries.
Most of
Yeah,
it
a
was
lot of
based
it,
on.
yeah, a lot of it was. Was just the,
While we're waiting, I want to just comment. I agree with Bill. I think we ought to start somewhere. I'm not sure $500 is the right amount. Maybe start 250 or 350 or, and see how it goes, see if that's really an incentive. A couple other comments that were made at the meeting that I want to just bring up to you guys. One was, I understand this one was maybe do 3-year increments instead of 5-year increments because people move so fast, especially this newer generation are moving jobs very, very quickly. And they gave some statistics at that meeting that you guys will find interesting. 16%, there's 226 full-time employees. 16% or 37 of them are less than a year. 40% or 91 of those employers are between a year but less than 5 years. 22% or 49 of them are more than 5 years and less than 10. And 22% or 49 of them are more than 10 years. So you get about half that are over 5 years, 44% that are over 5 years, and the rest of them are under 5 years.
So in the general fund,
56% are under 5 years.
general fund increased by 2.5
5%.
for the general fund.
Total dollar amount of,
General fund 21,132,522.
That's not the entire county budget because there are so many different funds, but that's the primary one.
And the other comment that was brought up at that meeting was that the interest that we make is all free and clear extra money that we could use for this. But I think Sandy brought that up. I think you helped us with an email, and maybe you can explain that more. That's already figured into our fiscal plan by Jeff.
It is
Peters.
already figured in because it's part of our miscellaneous revenues that come in. So that's already figured in when you guys build your budgets and to know whether you can fund things or can't fund things.
So when
So
we're
it's
setting,
not just extra money still out there. It's already figured into.
so when we're setting
the
our budget
values.
for our expenses, we know that that income is there for us to be able to meet
Yes.
our expenses.
I wasn't able to be at the department head meeting because I had to go to newly elected officials training. But just keep in mind that we had changed our PTO and sick time policy a couple years ago. So all of that is rolled into one. There's not separates anymore where they used to have separate times. And then the other thing is for how many years have we been doing this work study? 19, for 3 years or however. Getting everything up to as high as what you guys could go still was low. So all of the departments, I mean, we paid as high as what you guys would let us pay to our people, but then that did make it where we now don't have our differentiation. So like I have 3 people in the same category. One's been here more than 10 years. One's only been with me 2 years, and they're making the same because we're still at the low part of it. So the longevity part, or whatever you want to call it, would help award those people that have stayed with us longer and not take away from.
Get that. Could you try again?
Not take away from the, not take away from the
How do
hourly
you do that,
rate
Amy?
for that.
How do you do that?
I didn't even push that thing. So anyways, I just want to throw that out there, that we don't have a differentiation in years because of where you've been trying to get us.
There was another thing brought up at the meeting that I think is important, it hasn't been brought up today, and that is the cost of the cost of churn, the cost of those 56% of the employees that are new, having to train every year, new employees every year, that turnover. There's a huge cost, starting all over with new people. once you've had somebody there 2 or 3 years, they decide to go somewhere else. And it takes you 6 months to get them at least caught up to where they can do what the other person was doing, so maybe a year.
And not just in money, but in time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, time is money, so.
Because do we have the numbers laid out for what this would look like as far as the totals that it would cost the county?
Yes, we
I
do.
think we had that.
It's in our packet for today. 350 is $73,850.
What's 250?
52,750.
How much?
52,750.
52,000.
Oh, you got it in here?
Was this figured for part-time employees as well?
No.
Only
Full-time
full-time.
only,
And no elected officials.
and no elected officials. And the other difference is initially when this was proposed, this amount was going to be divided up over 26 pays, to which it would be pretty much probably unnoticeable that, or you'd have more taxes taken out. The way that it's been written up here is it would be paid at the end of the year in December. So you would get a one-time check amount.
Taxes.
Minus the taxes, yes, it has to be taxes.
Yeah, and I think they overwhelmingly prefer that one-time amount, Amy, when we talked about that. The other thing that was brought up, two other little things that were brought up, and maybe we can look at this in the future, Bill, like you mentioned, but part-timers getting 25% of this, because some of your part-timers have been here a long time, and they're valuable. They just don't work full-time. And then somebody brought up the idea that can we codify it or make it so it's permanent and it can't be removed? Because they said it was happened once before that they got longevity pay, there's, years and years ago, decades ago, and then it was taken away.
I don't think we can do that. We can't tie the hands of the,
Future.
of future council or future commissioners on things like that. What's that? Okay.
Okay. On a $400 value that like Bill had, it's 84,400.
Or 400.
All right,
Elected officials would be eligible for this as well?
No. No elected officials, no part-time.
and we took care of the part-time people a number of years ago because we used to have that fixed $15, pretty much $15 an hour. And so they might leave us full-time making $20, $21 an hour, and they'd come back and do the same job, do it, but on part-time, and they'd get $15. We allowed the department heads or the elected officials to pay them equal with what they were, what that job paid if it was full-time. So that was helpful. So if there's, I guess the best way to look at this, first of all, let's decide, is this a method that we want to use? That being question number one. And then question number two, we can decide after question number one is what that dollar amount is. That sound reasonable?
Well, I moved that we move on with longevity pay with, I'm going to add my 2 cents in that, but the 400, 800, 1200, 1600.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? This is a motion to amend. Okay, thank you, Don.
That's why we pay you the high dollar.
All right, we have a motion to amend this ordinance using longevity pay and doing it in $400 increments.
Year or 5-year? How?
5-year.
5-year?
Same basis that they had set up.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Discussion. I understand.
Where I work, I have no benefits. I work on vacation.
You're that mom and pop shop I'm
Self-employed.
talking about.
I get no longevity pay. If I'm sick, I go to work.
You're not alone in this. That's the same
But-
way my
And we're
deal is too.
asking then we're asking people who are very similar in Amy's condition then to pay for the county government, extra benefits that they themselves don't get.
I understand.
And many of them are dealing with inflation, working 2 and 3 jobs per family. I don't think it's fair, and I'm totally against it. My vote is no, absolutely no.
And I
But
pay for
we are gonna do roll call, but just,
I pay for my own wage, and you all know what I do, and I'm not any part of this, but our employees.
Well, and
Perfect.
that's why I say I'm split, right?
I
Because
understand.
when it comes to medical insurance, you know, we paid it completely out of pocket for a number of years to where it was a salary. I'm not a cheap date when it comes to medical insurance. You know, at one point, I think we were paying $25,000 out of pocket for the 4 of us. And that's just for coverage. That wasn't paying deductibles or any of my procedures. On the flip side, you know, I'm looking at employees and how difficult it is if I've been somewhere for 10 years and, you know, Amy comes in and she's making the same as me. I get that part of it. I understand that.
And that's everywhere, though. I mean, we deal with the same thing
Oh,
where I
you know,
work.
you're
It's-
like that with anything. I mean, grocery,
it's
it just
across the
any
board.
prices. You talk to anybody who's in this room, and that's what it is. So I do like that part where we're at least able to maybe separate away, you know. And I read through all the comments from the survey. You know, and I think one of the biggest things I took out of that is all of us need to have better communication. And when I say us, I'm saying all of the elected officials, all of the department heads. I don't know all the employees that work for the county. And, you know, the one comment I made, that I read was, you know, is it too hard for other employees in the building to say good morning? And I thought, oh my gosh. I mean, it's simple, but, you know, it involves all of us. And you know, for what it's worth, it's that time of year and you're trying to make things right. So, you know, on that aspect, I completely understand the longevity pay, and appreciating those people who have been here and, you know, they get you through those difficult times. And they help train the new employees. So I'm really torn on it. Do I think they deserve it? I'm not going to say they don't. Absolutely. But then on the other side, I think, is that a good way for us to spend money?
you also need to recall, you know, I'm gonna use a police officer as what it cost us to train a new officer and how much more they can make by moving from one department to another. They can make considerably more money moving to another department. And in fact, back in the 80s and 90s, we saw that frequently, where people were leaving when I was on city council, people were leaving Auburn because they could make more money by moving to Fort Wayne or moving to a different department or moving to the county at one point. And it takes us a little over a year to put a new police officer on the road at great expense because we're paying them while they're in training and everything else. So we need to do what we can to keep those people. It's not just losing, you know, we lost a number of police officers to SDI. That's what we're competing with. And we have to do what we can do to keep our employees and to honor our employees. You know, part of that, is it too difficult to say hello in the hallway, has to do with their perception of how we treat them.
Oh, sure.
And, you know, this is, I think this is something that is needed and has been called for quite some time.
Well, you know, the last 2 years has been anything but welcoming. I mean,
Yes.
it's taken all of that away from all
Right.
of us.
Yeah.
You know, and I would even maybe challenge HR to come up, you know, if they have any ideas for maybe even wellness that helps with that insurance you know,
And I
maybe
think-
helps with that, but also maybe helps, you know, bridge the gap so employees can hold each other accountable.
And the commissioners are working on that. They had a meeting yesterday that they're moving in that direction.
Sure.
I think the commissioners understand the issues here. They may not agree with how we want to solve it, but I
Right.
think they know the issues.
I was actually happy how many people actually took the initiative to give the comments back. You know, we don't always like what, you know, we read or hear, but they were able to put that out there without attaching their name to it and giving us constructive feedback. So I think, you know, for all of us, we can take that and only be better.
I just want to make one final comment about the longevity pay. You know, in my business, we don't have longevity pay, but the difference is in the private sector, you have the ability to react much faster. I can give a raise anytime I want to anybody I want based on performance and if they've been there longer. And I also hire people in much lower when I want to, if they don't have any experience. So I think there's a good tool based upon a government system that we don't really do much but one time a year at budget time when we do increases. We don't have that fast reaction time that the private sector has. And the other thing, my longevity pay would be built into our salaries, because when I look at what I pay for my middle management people, what the middle management people here make, we pay significantly more. So we could hire people away if we wanted to. It's just, they aren't making a lot of money.
I'd be curious as to why people stay. Talk a lot of times about the people who leave, but we have a lot of people who stay. I think a lot of that has to do with culture, and we've created a good culture. So in those departments, I wonder if a couple extra $100 a year, is that really going to keep them here, or are they staying because of the culture that we've created?
All very legitimate questions, very legitimate.
I think giving it to them all at once is more of a thank you than spreading it out and here's your 20 cents for the week. I mean, I almost think that that's more of a slap in the face. I mean, where if you have it, and it's a line item on your pay stub, doing it that way, I would appreciate it more.
And everybody needs to know that some of the ideas that were passed around that meeting were much, much, much higher than this. I mean, the price tag on the proposal that we had, there was $500,000 a year. That was,
Can't go there.
it was so much for 5 years, then more for 6 years, then more for 7 years, and more for 8 years, up to $12,000 at 20 years.
Can't go there. All right, we have a motion and a second to amend this using the $400 increments. I think we need a roll call vote.
Okay. Presser? Dembski? Yard?
Yes.
Kraft?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Yes. All right. The motion passes 5-1. That was to amend the ordinance, so we now need a vote on first reading. I have a motion to.
Do we need another first?
We had a motion to, that was a motion to amend.
We already did the first, then we did the motion to amend.
Okay, so we're ready for second.
So we're ready to suspend the rules.
Okay, all right.
But we never.
With the amendment?
No, we never voted on the.
I didn't think so. No.
Salary ordinance.
Salary ordinance, yeah.
Yeah.
All we did was amend it.
Yeah, you
So it's amended now, so now we need a vote on the first reading.
Correct.
On the first reading.
All right.
Okay.
Any other discussion from the council? Comment from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor of passing the ordinance 2022-OCC-8 on first reading as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same.
Aye.
And the motion carries 5-1. So, next, we need to suspend the rules and read this by title only on second and third readings. Can I have a motion to suspend the rules, please?
So move.
Been moved by Councilman Van Wy to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Kraft. Again, this needs to be unanimous. Discussion? Comment from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye.
Aye.
A
I'm
reluctant
going
yes.
to
A
lose
reluctant
anyway.
yes.
So a reluctant yes, because we have to move on to another topic. So.
All right. So the motion to suspend the rules passes. And 2023 salary and hourly wage ordinance, ordinance 2022-OCC-8. Can I have a motion to pass this ordinance on second and third readings
With amendments.
with amended? And moved by Councilman Van Wy,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Kraft. Discussion? Comment from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor of passing this on second and third readings signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same. Motion passes 5-1. So, we are there. Okay, we are going to take a 10-minute break. So let's be back here at 9:50.
And turn off your microphones, please. I'm not stopping live. So turn them all off.
3.
Microphone.
And the one thing you will notice different than previous years, yeah, now, Bob wants the window open, now it's too
guess.
cold for everybody.
Testing, testing.
You just got a gust.
No, we opened the other side.
All right,
Bringing a blanket.
as the one difference you'll notice in the meeting packet for next year, normally we have 2 full days of budget discussions in August. We're knocking that down to 1 day, and we've always had every department come in and make the same make a presentation. And for most departments, it's the same thing. Costs are up 3%. I stayed within that, and that's what my request is. So we were hearing the same thing repetitive, meeting after meeting after meeting. So we're going to knock this down to 1 day, have those departments that are making major program changes come in and talk to us. Otherwise, the department heads can talk to their council liaison. All the paperwork will be turned into Susan. She'll be able to present us with the preliminary numbers. And then we will have the 2-day meetings in September that we've always done.
That include any new department heads that would need to
Could
come
be.
before
Yeah,
us?
we'd make that a major change.
I think I would like to see that, just so we don't always see some of those, especially that aren't in the courthouse.
Okay.
At least we can
That's fine.
have an
I think
opportunity
that's
to
a
ask
major change.
questions.
All right. Any questions on that? We do need a motion to pass the meeting schedule for next year, if I could have that motion. Been moved by Councilman Yard. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Van Wy.
I'll second it, sir. The only thing I have to say, and I'm going to say 2 things, is January 10th, I will not be here because I'm in St. Louis, and I will put right now my nomination for Bob Kraft as vice president. So thank you.
Bob, I knew that.
You're retired, you have all the time in the world.
Bob, I knew that was coming, but I didn't know he was going to spring it on you today.
So remember that. Someone second it January 10th, so you get it, you don't have to mention my name at all. I'm saying,
We're doing elections on the 10th, right?
Yeah. He'll be gone, and when he's gone, the train goes through.
We'll expect Valentine's on the February meeting then, Bill.
all right. I can find,
I like
find
chocolate.
candy corn.
I want flowers.
All right, I have a motion, I have a second, any discussion?
Flowers.
Comment from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same, that motion is carried. Next, you have the 2023 liaison assignments. And as I mentioned when Randy was here about the Airport Authority, Rick Collins is going to take the airport as their liaison. And Councilwoman Prosser has agreed to take on the Solid Waste Management District as our representative to the district. So then,
So you're doing liaisons first, correct?
yes,
Okay.
we are doing the liaisons first. So if no one, and I do see I read that backwards.
No,
didn't
that's
I?
all right. That's all right. I just want to make sure we were all on the same.
On the same page?
Yes.
Yes, we are doing the liaisons first.
Got it.
So everybody can see the departments that they've agreed to, and I have talked to each one of you about these things, if there was going to be any changes.
And you've talked to the new one coming in, and he's all right with what he's
Yes.
got.
Yes, actually, I met with him first, Bill. What's that? These are the same ones you and I talked about.
Oh, yeah, then that requires a vice president.
We did, We did where those departments, in some cases, people were elected or designated twice, like assessor and reassessment, that's essentially the same thing. Or the clerk and the elections board, that's essentially being a liaison to the same person in the clerk, so we did combine those. So if it looks like you've got less, it's not really true, it's the same, you've got the same people. You do?
Yep, you still have
You do.
Chris.
All right, unless there's any other questions on that, if I could entertain a motion to approve the liaison assignments.
I moved it, as it's presented in front of me, that we approve this liaison assignments.
Okay? Been moved by Councilman Kraft, or by Councilman Van Wy. Bill, Bob, did you second it?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Now, the new requirement is vice president's got the auditor office, so.
All right, all those, been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Comment from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor of the council liaison assignments signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. That motion is carried. Next, in second page, there is our appointments.
Amy, I do have you changed on the second page. The copies that you have in front of you, if you have them, I didn't change it, but it is changed to you. Online is correct if you're looking online.
Yeah.
Yes.
She didn't believe me last night.
No, I was having a rough time.
All right,
Thank you.
assignments for the council appointments. Northeast Center will be Councilwoman Prosser. Plan Commission will be Councilman Van Wy. Tax Abatement Committee will be Amy Dembski, myself, and David Yard. The Jail Committee, Councilman Van Wy, Councilman Kraft, and Councilman Yard. Job Classification Compensation Committee, Councilman Kraft, Councilwoman Dembski, and Councilwoman Prosser. Northeast Indiana Regional Coordinating Council, myself. We have also an appointment to the Waterloo Grant Township Public Library Board, and this is a reappointment of Mavis Sutton, and her term of office will be 2023 to 2026. And I think we need a vote on that one, I believe, so.
Well, we need a vote on all of them.
Do we want to do it all as one, or do you want to do them separately? All as one? Okay. That one will have a vote. The DeKalb County Redevelopment Commission, our appointments are John Good and Rick Walders. These will be reappointments, and that's for the year 2023. And the Peterborough Board, Kyle Bransom and Marcia Sievers for 2023. On that one, we have to do this every year. This is one that requires a split between Republicans and Democrats, and they're not able to find a Democrat, so we need to waive that rule. So, and to the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission, Tyler McCowan, also for the year 2023. So, first off, let's deal with the Peterborough Board and that appointment and waiving the rule for a Democrat. I have a motion to waive that rule. And it's unfortunate, and we've gone through, had the assessor look, and we've had her contact the DeKalb Democrat chairman, and they've not yet been able to find us a person to put there, so it's not that we haven't asked. Yeah, and I think the one person we've got had to come from Steuben County, so. So can I have a motion to waive that rule?
I move that we suspend the rules that we have to have a two-party on the PETA board.
All right. Have a motion by Councilman Van Wy. and a second by Councilwoman Dembski. Discussion? Comment from the public? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. That motion carried. Now, we'll have a vote on our full list.
Okay, wait. We also need a motion to waive the level 2, 3 certification due to the lack of qualified individuals holding the certification. That was part of the PETA BOA stuff
Okay.
last year.
All right. So we need a vote to suspend the rules on, or suspend the requirement for level 2 and level 3 certifications.
I moved whatever Susan said, to move on with this. To suspend the rules.
Been moved by Councilman Van Wy and a second by Councilman Kraft. Discussion? Comment from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. That motion is carried. Now, the full list. Again, Solid Waste District, Plan Commission, Tax Abatement, Jail Committee, Job Classification Committee, Northeast Center Coordinating Council, Waterloo Grant Township Public Board, DeKalb County Redevelopment Commission, PETA BOA Board, and the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission. I have a motion to make these appointments. Amy, motion by Councilwoman Dembski. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Kraft. Discussion? Comment from the public? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. That motion is carried. All right, next. Need to give the auditor the authority to make year-end transfers as needed to keep each one of the accounts in the black. And I have a motion to give the auditor that permission. And moved by Councilman Yard. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilman Van Wy. Discussion?
He'd give her that much authority, but I'll second it.
Comment from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. That motion is carried. All right, that brings us down to the Commissioner Council discussion. First item on here is the ARP plan. Mike, is that you or Bill or, okay, Mike?
How's that?
Thank you.
More better? As promised for your consideration, one ARPA plan. We currently have $831,233 of unappropriated ARPA funds available. This plan was put together and approved unanimously by the ARPA committee on December 2nd and approved unanimously by the commissioners on December 5th. So just to kind of run down the list with you. First item is 1.25 million going into the highway project. That is to reduce the amount that needs to be financed in whatever manner we arrive at. $2 million committed to broadband. Again, the need for high-speed broadband is rapidly moving up the priority list. So that was a real critical part of the plan that the committee approved. The next two items, the Spillman server upgrade and the WatchGuard cloud conversion, are both IT projects related to the law enforcement end of things. The watch guard is the storage for all the body cam footage. And of course, the Spillman server carries all the law enforcement information through Central Dispatch. Sunny Meadows, we approved an additional $600,000 for Sunny Meadows in addition to the $150,000 you approved at the November meeting. As you're probably all aware, there's still a lot of moving parts with Sunny Meadows, regardless of which way that goes and what the decisions are made on a final basis. For that, there will be some expense involved, and so this gives us about $750,000 total to be able to deal with Sunny Meadows. There is $500,000 approved for a solar field at Community Corrections, which will help significantly to mitigate the amount that we're paying Auburn Electric there. It's that electric bill is just ridiculous, and it's the way the demand charges are set up with Auburn Electric. But solar field will significantly reduce that. May even produce enough to get us out of the demand territory. Significant savings there. Next item, the Cisco phone switches was another request from IT, all part of kind of an ongoing project that Jack is working on. Next item is $26,000 committed to the DeKalb County housing study that was done by the Economic Development Partnership. They were able to secure funding for the majority of that. That kind of strategic plan that was developed out of that housing study will be extremely helpful moving forward as we look to bring in housing development. There's as you probably are all aware, there's a significant shortage of housing in all levels in the county, both from multifamily, starter homes, and up the line. So that this housing plan will help us be able to bring in developers, hopefully, to solve part of that problem. We approved $15,000 that goes back to the COVID period to compensate the exempt staff at the health department for the bazillion and a half extra hours they worked under their normal salary during the COVID crisis. $250,000 is approved for a generator here for the courthouse, and I think the need for that is pretty apparent when we lost the electricity a few weeks back and had all kinds of havoc trying to bring everything back online and cooked a few things and developed into a real nightmare. We approved $200,000 to help with the Waterloo Sewer Project engineering. That's a $16 million project. Again, we have significant sewer and septic issues throughout the county. So any way that we can move to address those things and help solve some of those problems is worthwhile. $600,000 designated for drain and ditch engineering. That becomes even more significant now that the surveyors resigned and there, I think, will be some time to get everything back up to speed with the surveyor's office. So if we can have the funds available to do the engineering on the reconstruction and maintenance projects that's necessary, that then takes that out of the cost that the landowners in the watersheds have to contribute. So that was the major projects that were considered. Then dropping down to that next section, we recommended or decided that as part of the highway project that you're going to hear about shortly, that it made sense for the county to hold the construction contingency rather than let the contractor hold that contingency and any fees and so forth associated with that. I think it's much wiser for us to control that. We lumped $461,127 into that contingency fee. More realistically, it's about $300,000, and that additional $161,000 will move up to the building project. There's $500,000 for tower upgrades at Central Dispatch. And that entire project's just north of $800,000. So there's probably going to be some cum cap money involved in that. But if we do that tower upgrade, it will improve radio communications throughout the county, eliminate the need for a new tower at the highway department and the new jail when we get to that point. And take our reliance off of the current tower that we're using, which belongs to Auburn Essential Services. So, and it'll also would give us some space to lease on our own tower, which is, the amount's insignificant, but it's part of the project. Lastly, $200,000 for cybersecurity and IT. And I think it's hard to overstate how important the whole cybersecurity thing is now with all of those phishing and cybercrime criminals becoming more and more sophisticated. It's a real scramble for us to keep up with that. And of course, there are some other IT upgrades that need to be handled, like the system here, which still isn't exactly what we want it to be. So those amounts total the $6,831,233. Below that, you'll see the funds that were already approved and appropriated by you folks there. Which left then an ending balance of $450,000, which still gives us a 5% reserve for SBOA audits. Hopefully, we're not going to need that since we're on the low end of things, and we were able, being under the $10 million cap, we were able to treat all this as lost revenue. So I suspect that the audit process isn't going to soak all that up. If it's not used, we'll suggest another path forward, and you can reappropriate it. And then $50,000 for consultation fees from Baker Tilly. And that is the end of that report.
All right. Questions for Mike on the ARP plan?
Yeah. Yeah. The ARPA plan requires us to have a plan in place, but it's still fluid, as Bob said, as amounts change and the expenses change. We do have to have the ARPA dollars committed under contract by December 31st of '24, and has to be spent by December 31st of '26.
Why is there, didn't Waterloo get their own money? Why do we have 200,000 for Waterloo?
Well, they're still short on that project. That's a $16 million project. So we had a request from the Waterloo Council that if we could assist them with the engineering fees, it would be greatly appreciated. And the committee was persuaded by that to include it.
I would point out, Mike, and I've already shared this information with Brian out at Central Communications, but as one of the results of the governor's healthcare commission that met over the last 6-8 months, they are looking at some coordination across the state of Indiana with the things like Spillman, and trying to get everybody to either be on the same system or get some interface that would connect them so that their interconnectivity between communications systems is there. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure which way you want to look at this, but a lot of counties use multiple servers to manage the communications, the warrants and arrests and jail. We use Spillman for all of them. It's all in one. I don't know where that one's going, but it'll be before the legislature this year. So before we get too active, we need to figure out what the state is going to do before we spend too much money.
Yeah,
There.
right. And I suspect, given the current information, that Spillman has the edge
Yes,
on that. But
they do, but I was surprised at the number of different number of different services that are out there in the 92 counties.
Yeah.
It was a surprise to me.
Yeah, the current Spillman server that we have in service is well past end of life. So the repercussions of that going down are pretty significant.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Any other questions on any of this plan?
Is there a vote on this today, or just this is information only?
You just appropriate once the request is made.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought.
It would be,
I mean, you probably should have a consensus on whether you're going to allow this so that they know whether they can move forward or not.
yeah, vote would be just really spiffy.
Change as things happen, like it gets paid for through the state or whatever, we move that money somewhere else. But the overall plan we have to have, and we have to get it passed so the commissioners can start working on.
Yeah.
Are you good with this?
Yeah, I was part of the committee for the whole
Do you have
18
your
months.
mic on?
Yeah, for the whole 18 months that we met, or 12 months, and there was a lot of public input, we took it around the county, different areas, had different meetings and lots of different ideas brought up, and we kind of took Amy was there, well, Amy Prosser was a part of that.
I have to say that this was probably one of the most significant collaborative efforts that's happened in the county in a long time. The committee, there were 14 members on the committee, elected officials from cities and towns, representatives from the ag community, folks from the council. It was that's the way government ought to work.
Don, question, can we do this as an appropriation to approve this, so that, or are they gonna have to come back to us with each individual item?
Well, they do, but I appropriated it under my location in the budget for next year so that when you approve this, I can just transfer to what accounts we need and not have to re-advertise the whole thing.
So it's, these dollars amounts are in your budget, and you would transfer it out to the individual.
So where, whatever account we needed to appropriate pay for whatever project they had,
All right, so.
when you guys approve it.
So we would, but that's what I'm saying, we approve this plan as it is, and then you have the authority to move it as they're ready to spend it.
Correct.
Okay. So with that being said, I would like to entertain a motion that we approve this plan as an appropriation. Is that the term we want to use?
In the budget, you've already.
Appropriate, so, okay, so we
Right.
just need to approve the plan.
It's in the
Okay.
budget already.
Right.
so-
All right, so I will entertain a motion that we approve this ARP plan that's been submitted by the commissioners.
I move to approve the art plan.
Been moved by Councilman Kraft. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Yard. Discussion.
There be an update for us regarding Sunny Meadows? I've had a lot of phone calls from the Garrett community as to what's happening out there.
Yes,
I think it's really at the forefront of a lot of families.
what it is, it's an important issue and a lot of interest. And I promise you, we're not going to do that in a vacuum. There's going to be a lot of discussion about that.
Anybody else? Comment from the public? You could stand up and come up to the podium, please.
Just real quick, what's the $50,000 line item for Baker Tilly?
Baker Tilly, our financial consultants that kept us on the straight and narrow with what we could and couldn't do with ARPA funds as we developed this. Yeah, so we brought them on early.
All right, been moved and seconded. Any other discussion comment from the public? Been moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving the ARPA plan from the commissioners signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. That motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, next on this discussion is the highway build. Bill, Todd, where are we at here?
Yes, some people from Fetters, I think.
Yeah, Elevitis is going to make this presentation,
Okay,
and we've worked several months, somewhere in the neighborhood of, 25, 30 meetings with Elevitis to get this thing all ironed out. And we've come up with the numbers now and the design. So I'll turn it over to them. They can explain it a lot better than I can.
okay.
But, so that's where we're at. So
All right, thank you, Bill. All right,
Good morning. I didn't anticipate an audience, so I'm excited. So, he had mentioned Elevatus will be presenting. I'm Tyler Wolf with FCI Construction, Director of Pre-Construction. We'll be presenting the GMP to you guys this morning, along with Karsten Dick. He'll be the project manager on the project if approved. He's going to present some high-level schedule discussion this morning as well, along with Greg Martz, who is with GM Development, will be the developer on the project. So he'll kind of talk next steps once we get through the GMP and schedule discussion. But I'm going to pass out a GMP for you guys kind of to review. It's a breakdown of our cost that we've worked through with the commissioners, Ben with the county, and Elevatus.
Great question, though. 14.
here, you want some more?
Exactly.
Jesus Christ. He's not here for the sports part, he's here for Bill. I thought he was here for the sports part. That's what was the question.
So I'll give you a chance to get your magnifying glass out. So what this is, it's kind of a breakdown of scopes involved in the project, with some value engineering deducts towards the bottom of the page, to ultimately create what we want to call our GMP, which is a guaranteed maximum price for this project. Within that cost, it's a guarantee that this price will not go up. This is a non-change order project, so any changes, unless they're directed by the owner directly, the price will not be affected throughout the project. Starting at the top, you'll see our general conditions. Those would be items involved in the construction of the project, general management costs, move through site, core and shell, fit out of the buildings, and then mechanical, HVAC, and electrical. For a construction cost of $8,710,700. Below that, you'll see our overhead and profit, a fee of 6%, which is included in our RFP proposal that was accepted. Below that were the value engineering deducts that the design team, as well as FCI and the county, kind of discussed through the project. The main intent being to get the cost driven down where we wanted it to be without affecting the function of the property or the project in itself. I think Ben was very happy with the end result. Some of the deducts won't affect the project and the functionality of the campus whatsoever, but there are items that we felt in design that we could change and gain some savings throughout that we could pass on to the county. Below that, you'll see our total contract estimate. That would be our GMP amount of $8,749,342.59. That would be our proposed GMP for the project. This project will not exceed. So with that, I'll entertain any questions on this sheet before I pass it on to Karsten to kind of talk through high-level schedule.
Just as a reminder to the council and to the public, we had given the commissioners direction that this project needed to be under $10 million. So I think they've done a nice job here taking care of that. So.
And we have the salt barn on here too. That's a coverall barn? Or
Yes,
a
yep.
coop barn, I mean.
That would be under core and shell, second to last item, salt storage structure. And then your fuel station is directly below that. Will be inclusive of the canopy, pad.
Yeah, this damn small printing, I mean. You know, I don't have eyes when I did it 20 years ago.
Glad it's not just me, Bill, that can't read this small print.
That's right.
Thought so.
Can't ask questions if you don't know, so.
Yeah. And what is your, how long do you predict it takes you to finish this project?
I'll let Karsten talk to schedule here. He'll be running the project on the ground, so my responsibility will be up front through the bid phase. I'll create bid packages, take it through bidding and up to construction. Once it moves to construction, Karsten will take over for all on-site management from that point on. So I'll let him, if there's no more discussion on the GMP amount, let him kind of talk through schedule briefly here.
Good morning. I'll keep schedule nice and short and sweet. The schedule that I passed out, it does break down the 5 different buildings. This schedule assumes that we do receive approval this year. So assuming that does happen, we feel very confident that we'll complete this facility and it'll be operational before next winter. With that, I'll open it up if there's any questions for schedule.
On the building. There is a difference there. Is that going to make much difference down the road as far as?
So in talking with that, with the design standard is 26 gauge, 24 gauge is a little thicker. We typically use that on roofs. It is an upcharge to go to that on the walls. We rarely ever use that thick a gauge on the walls. The point being, if a salt truck's going to hit the side of a building, it doesn't matter if it's 24 or 26 gauge, it's going to dent. It's basically an impact rating. So on the roof, we maintain a higher impact rating for hail resistance, damage there. But in terms of functionality on the wall panels, you've got girts on the inside. So typically, again, if something's going to hit the girt light enough, it's not going to affect the panel. It's going to hit it on the exterior of the building. It's going to dent either one of those. So we don't typically pay the extra cost for a higher gauge panel on the walls. So that was an easy deduct item in our minds, where we could get some cost savings and not affect the performance of the building. SDI, we do a lot of pre-engineers out at SDI. We'd use 26 gauge panels on the walls. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I mean, we talk at length through the process too. It's not a huge savings, but it is one we feel that's warranted, so.
For you or for maybe the commissioners, but we had some early on issues with the land use and what we're going to be able to do there. That's all taken care of. We can do everything we want in Waterloo. Good.
The new facility will be on city utilities, I assume, Waterloo city utilities. Have we looked at those demand rates? And I only say that based on what we're all learning with community corrections, that with the utility charges would be.
Yeah, the only city utility would be the water line extension, and they've looked at demands for fire protection, so that will be met. Yeah.
What does your remodeling of the building out there, is this under one of these cost items?
Yes, so much of that cost would fall under, the schedule out of the way here. Much of those costs would fall under the general trades. You're going to have some demolition in the existing office space, and most of that would fall under fit out for the existing office space. We're removing some walls. We're adding some additional wall space. MSD and ACT would be metal studs, drywall, and acoustical ceiling tiles. So most of that is your office space fit out.
And we're still getting a lot of money on remodeling the building.
Well, that's an addition. You're doubling the office space. So the remodels light in comparison, but that also includes the doubling of the office space. You've got a new conference area, new locker room space, restrooms, all that would be inclusive. And then the firewall to the existing shop area.
Any other questions? I'm not sure who's going to answer this question. I mean, we've already given our direction. What is actually going to need to be approved by the council? Do we have the financing piece in place yet?
So I'm going to let Greg talk to that. He's going to kind of talk next steps as we move forward into construction and the approval part.
Right, because this bot arrangement is the first time that we've ever done anything like this. Central Indiana uses this quite frequently. With Northern Indiana has really not done this much.
Yeah, yeah, and this is a great question. And so what we're asking for today is really not a whole lot. Today is about more presenting the budget for you all. Also for the public. I know this project has been talked about dozens of times in public meetings already. So really, this is just another touch point to share information. But mostly, it's to this budget. We've been working very hard on this for about the last 3 months. This is brand new. So we just got finished with this. So we're giving you the most updated information that we have. And really, what it is if you all see a problem, then it gives us a chance to reevaluate before we come back in front of you. But if it looks good, then we know to kind of put the pedal to the metal on next steps. We're obviously hoping that everything we're sharing today is good news because we're under the target budget, and we took that target very seriously. We've been working very hard for that. But at the same time, we'll take any advisement that you have today and use that before we come in front of you again. There's only one more step as far as the BOT process, and that would be holding a public hearing in front of the commissioners where we would present this same information again. And then assuming that were to get approved by the commissioners, then we'd come back in front of you. We'd talk with your financial advisor, get all the financing together. And actually, it'll probably be your financial advisor making that presentation, but we'll be back in front of you to just button everything up and have a final vote at that time. So I'd say there's really 2 steps left: Commissioner's public hearing, and then we'll come back in front of you after that if we receive Commissioner approval.
Okay, excellent. Questions? Then I think what we need to do, does anybody see anything with the plan that they would like to see tweaks? Or I don't know that we need an actual vote, but if there are any issues here, let's try to get them up front for everybody so that the commissioners and
Well, other than the bottom line, should be dropped another couple $1 million.
I think they've done a pretty darn good job there of getting underneath that target number, so.
Have you built in, into your budget there, knowing that this is going to start next summer, any increased costs? I mean, I know prices aren't really going up right now, but you never know in this environment.
Yeah, so throughout the budgeting phase, reaching out to several of our partners, I ask, and I always make sure, especially rolling over a new year, some contractors are signatory, their labor rates will go up in June. Always ask them to include some escalation and projection. I know it's hard right now, especially with materials, what they are. It sounds like the pricing is starting to level out. Lead times are being the more concern right now for us. So getting the project kick-started, getting it awarded so we can start procuring materials is the bigger issue. We've reached out. We talked about NIPSCO. We've already reached out and had discussions, making sure transformers are available. Same with any air handling units. MEP equipment really is the long lead times, but we asked to include some escalation in that GMP so that we can accommodate for that. Yep.
You don't need to be 3-phase, do you?
Just as a point of clarification, as you start thinking along the finance lines, that 1.25 million that was just part of the ARPA approval will come off of that 8.7 million number.
That'll bring that down.
Yeah, so that's going to lower that amount to be financed.
That's below the line. So you've got costs down here that is by the county. At the bottom of your sheet, those are costs that are carried that were approved.
So you took the ARPA funds off of that already?
Yes, that was outside of that. The water line extension, the contingency money.
No, there's another million in there besides that.
Yeah, he wasn't talking about the contingency money. He was talking about the other
money.
We appropriated another $1 million of ARPA money.
Correct, and through our discussion, that was going to be paid separately outside of our contract. So that would not be in our GMP amount with our contract. That's why it was kept outside.
Oh, well, I stand corrected.
So it's over 10 million.
No.
If you add the $1.5 million that he just had, the ARPA money.
No, the construction contingency is 3%. They wanted to hold that separately in their own. So it's whether we hold it or you hold it, it's your dollars to spend. So if we don't touch contingency in our contract, it still goes back to the county. That was just held outside of our contract so they can hold it as a separate pot and direct it as needed, which is that bottom line there for the $262,000. The water line extension, that was what you wanted to pay out of ARPA funds, correct?
Yeah, 250,000 plus another $1 million.
Correct.
Right. All right. So that other $1 million's already been pulled out.
The communication tower?
No. No. We're carrying the construction contingency.
Correct.
And we already talked about that.
Correct.
We're paying for the water extension, 250,000. That's already in there. The tower is a wash. That's got nothing to do with the ARPA money. And then we just allocated another $1 million of ARPA funds to the project itself.
$1,250,000.
Yeah.
$1,250,000.
Well, yeah, the 250,000 was the water extension.
Okay. What our GMP does not include would be the water line extension, the contingency dollars, or the communication tower. Those are the 3 things that are pulled out of our GMP. Everything else is inclusive of that.
So he stands corrected now.
So it is.
We will take another $1 million off of this number in terms of what needs to be financed.
Okay. Just make sure that that is clear when you come back to us.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, we also said that that $10 million includes whatever financing cost
Right.
was going to be involved here. So add
Right.
the interest or whatever in that financing. It's all got to be under $10 million.
Yeah, and of course, the finance package is the next thing to consider. And there may be another finance package or financing proposal submitted. I know that Jeff's kind of preliminary look at this was a recommendation to bond it. Just from a personal standpoint, I'm not too keen on bonding it. So there may be another financing proposal that would let us do it as a traditional bot, as a lease purchase program coming forward fairly soon too. So,
Well, said, addressing what Tyler's issue was, you've heard what our position is, and unless anybody's got something different that they would like to say. Todd, go ahead.
Real quick, I'll have to remember that or look up that conversation. I believe the 10 million was supposed to include the property, not the interest, because the only reason I say that, if you finance, let's say 7 million, going rate now is probably at least 5%, probably closer to 6. You're looking at 400,000 a year in interest, at least the first year, and then it goes down a little. But over the term, I'm thinking you're looking at probably $3 million in finance costs over a.
It included the interest.
Yeah,
And that was made clear.
You sure about that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I don't know how we get there from here at that point. So. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That was already done.
That was already behind us.
That's out.
Okay.
That's out.
Okay. Yeah. The just so you know, this original proposal and the reason why we sent it back to get it whittled down, it came in at 9.9 million, and that just wasn't going to work. So we appreciate you acknowledging that we did try, because it's like you said, it was only $13,000, but you know what? That's $13,000. A dollar is a lot of money. Every dollar we can save is, and we've worked hard for that. But we'll have to look at that financing, because I'm not sure that will fall under the $10 million cap. So, thanks.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Guess not. Tyler, thank you very much. Appreciate the
Thank you, guys.
information.
Appreciate your time.
And the hard work you've done here.
Yes, thank you.
Rick. I gotta step out.
All right. Tell you what, why don't we take 5?
Okay.
Take 5 minutes. We'll come back at, we'll try to make it back at 5 to 11, but I know how everybody is.
Yeah, somebody's got some. Susan probably has extra copies.
I didn't understand it. Haley's famous, and we have a bio. Yeah, there is no logo. So what is it? That's what I'm saying. It doesn't even make sense to me. Lease pay. But you gotta stop, they need to stop pulling that interest, because there's a lease payment. You build it, you own it, or you're building it, leasing it from them until it's why ask for the other 20 years, 15 when you guys signed that for? Yeah. I would think.
One of these days, I'll remember to turn that on. Okay, so we have our public comment time. This is primarily going to be for the solar field tax abatement, which has not been granted yet. And if we move forward with this, what we will do this after this comment period is we will either ask or not ask the council attorney to prepare the resolution that would declare an economic revitalization area, because that's required prior to tax abatement. So if it passes here, we go to a resolution next month. We would have a public hearing on it and approve it or disapprove it at that time. If we choose not to do that and not move forward to that declaration, then there would be no tax abatement, because you can't have it without declaring the area as an economic revitalization area. So that's that. If it is denied this time, we are short one council person, depending on what that vote would be, and it's denied, then come January, we may vote again, because we will have a new council person, and the vote might change. So that'll be the process. So with that being said, these 6 people will be given 3 minutes each. We'll have the auditor's office with a timer on everyone, and I will cut you off at 3 minutes. Your time is up.
Quick question, when it goes, if it does go to public hearing, is that a longer period of time for people to have public input?
Yeah, because it would be, we would just have the public hearing, and we would probably restrict it to 3 minutes each, but you could have more people sign up. This time, only 6 people signed up. But what I would ask, and again, we're dealing with next month, not today, if you're going to, if people are going to all be speaking about the same issue, it would be preferable if you got your comments together and have one person make the comments about that one issue. Now, I'm sure that there are many issues that both those for and against have for this issue, but if you can combine your comments so that a single issue, a single person. If you got 10 issues, you got 10 people speaking, but they're not all saying exactly the same thing, because then it gets repetitious, and I think we need to move on from there. So that's coordination on your part, okay? All right, with that being said, Andrew, you are the first one on the list, and Jody, start the timer.
I want to also thank you guys for letting us speak, and especially for the explanations, because every time I come in here, you guys kind of school me on what I should be speaking to for each group, which makes sense. There's different committees, there's different commissions, there's different groups. So I'm not going to talk to you guys about property rights. I'm not going to talk to you guys about ordinances. And I'm definitely not going to try to extol like whether energy, clean energy, renewable energy is good or bad. So I want to thank you guys for that. So I am going to talk about economic revitalization area, which takes us one step closer to abatements. And over the past couple meetings we've had with the actual abatement meetings where they have scored them, both companies have gotten 10 years. There's been a lot of numbers thrown out. We abate you $8 million a year, approximations, minus depreciation or not taking into account depreciation. And you give us 2.7 over the course of 10 years. That's one of the numbers that was thrown out. So that goes into a special payment fund where we can spend that on more things, which great. But we're still abating a lot of money. But the question is, and what I thought interesting coming out of those meetings is, why would we do that? With very little hesitation, both companies have said, we're coming here, regardless. Like, we're going to come here, whether you give us an abatement or not. So I think we have an obligation, and in the best interest of the county, why don't they pay all of the taxes? So if we do an ERA, that kind of means blighted land. All of this land we're considering is very high yield. We're above averages. Yields have gone up. We will be replacing farms. We will be replacing people with land contracts or land agreements. Obviously, those can be more easily broken, but we will be replacing them. We will be losing jobs. We will be losing local business. We will be losing business to a lot of different things. We will be losing property taxes on equipment they have. So before we step into this and say, you know what, we're going to base this on a lie because that's not how ERA was initially meant to be used. Let's consider the fact that we are not only choosing winners and losers, we are choosing replacements for existing farmers, for existing people farming this land. So why would we need an ERA when they're coming anyways? Solar's coming, but let's get all of our money. I mean, let's get all we can for the county and use it appropriately. That's all I got. I did it again, Susan. Stole your pen.
They'll come after you, Andrew. Be careful. I will answer that question before we get on to the next person. With the economic development payments, that money can be directed to specific projects. If we give tax abatement, or we don't give tax abatement, then that money goes into the general fund and it cannot be given to the highway department. It cannot be given separately, specially for broadband or anything else. With that economic development payment, it goes into a fund and then we can direct it to specific places. Otherwise, it's just general. That being number one. Number two, in DeKalb County's case, different than both other counties that I keep directing you to, we have said that if we give tax abatement, then an equal percentage of the economic development money will go to those tax units that would have gotten taxes if we hadn't given the abatement. So in the case of the one project, that would be Wilmington Township, Stafford Township, and the county and the school district will all get part of the economic development money. So that's just information.
I have questions on that, but I'll obviously wait. I do have a question. Can we actually, because I've asked outside of this, if we can direct that money directly to road work, and I was told no. I mean, I was
If we
literally
do
told
the
no.
economic development payment and the commissioners agree to it, yes.
So there's nothing guaranteed that's
It has to be part of what their direction is going to be to us. We have to appropriate it, but they're going to give us direction, and this is where we want to spend it. So. And I'm with you. I'm with you.
But that's only if they get the tax abatement.
Right, and the reason this is kind of a chicken and the egg thing right now, because they need to know whether or not they're going to get tax abatement in order to negotiate with the commissioners how much of an economic development payment they're going to get. If we don't give tax abatement, then there's no economic development payment, there's no reason to negotiate with the commissioners. If we give tax abatement, then they know what they need to negotiate, and the commissioners know what they need to negotiate, because they'll know what we've abated. Now, one thing that doesn't come from any of this is that Andrew is correct in that the Tax Abatement Committee has said 10 years for both projects. What we have not decided, or what we have not done, is that 10 years 100% abatement? Is that 10% a year abatement? Is that 50% for the first half and 100% later? What's that? That'll be a discussion that we have here as a full council. The only thing the Tax Abatement Committee is recommending is they qualify for 10 years. Beyond that, it'll be the entire council will discuss.
Can the council shorten that period as well?
Yeah, they can do that. That's a recommendation by the Tax Abatement Committee. That's not, it's set in stone in any way.
Just on a scoring sheet. Some questions. But we all agree that it should come. All of us and not.
Did we have did they send us a scoring sheet so we can look at it?
We have on one of the pieces that's in the packet, the
If they're
scoring
not in
sheet's
here, I
on there.
can
I
go.
didn't see if it was on the second one or not.
I apologize, and I don't want to interrupt too much, but I just want to, that's the abatements. I'm talking about the ERA specifically now, and the fact that we don't have to. And it would be basically saying, we're going to sidestep this process. This is not how this land, it's high producing land. We're starting off with a lie.
But then that, I've had some discussions with several of the farmers. And that gets us into the whole property rights thing, and I know you didn't want to go there.
Not going to property rights. This is not the right place, come on.
This is, and if I take property out of production for 30 years for a solar field, I at least can get the property back. If I give that to a 2-acre lot so somebody can build a house, that takes that land out permanently. We lose far more to the building of houses than we do to the solar field.
But we could also we could just continue to farm it because that's what our comprehensive plan says we are.
But
we are a farming community.
Maybe that's not what that owner wants. So anyway.
Your discussion on the ERA rate is the next time.
You're right. Thank you.
Discuss it by each speaker, they get their time to speak.
Yep.
Thanks, Don.
I guess it's just that Andrew's been here so much, we get to be a real conversation between
And I will say, I appreciate everybody letting me speak as much as you guys do. I actually not everyone here can make it. So we have a lot of people here with us, but they can't always make it. Work times, people have to be there. I have a flexible schedule, and I thank you guys all.
And Andrew's been to, he's been to the lunch and learn on alternative energies and everything else. He's not being totally one-sided on this. Okay, next person on the list here, and you've got 3 minutes, Jessica Shull.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I know I'm taking Kelly's spot, so I appreciate that. Couple things. I feel like I'm on a race to beat the clock. We just talked about the fact that these companies said on that score sheet that they would come regardless of whether or not we gave them the tax abatement. Doesn't make sense to me. It's kind of like I bought my car from a local dealer, and if I went to him and said, hey, I'm willing to pay $50,000 for that truck, and he said, no, you only have to pay $30,000, but then I get that $30,000 to put into pet projects, right? Or he does. That's what this reminds me of. So I can't believe we would make a business decision where we leave millions of dollars on the table simply so we have the flexibility to do what we want with that money. Next, sorry, I'm trying to hurry. Okay, so we've been talking to different council members, people from our group have, and one of them mentioned, and you mentioned, I heard we lose roughly 3 acres of farmland per week to housing. Mr. Watson just shared with you that there's a housing need in our community. That was part of the community vision meeting, and losing that 3 acres of land per week to housing, it fulfills that community need. Losing it to solar does not fulfill that need. So I'm struggling with seeing how we favor solar over housing. Now, I've also done some studies, and I've looked to see what does the average family, 2 adults, 2 children, spend in DeKalb County per year. And we're finding $75,000 to $85,000 on things like housing, insurance, transportation, taxes, things like that, okay? So it takes 2 acres to build a house. That's 1.5 households per week if we're losing 3 acres a week. You take that times 52 weeks. This is a conservative number because some of that land would go to do housing additions, but we're looking at 78 new households per year times $85,000 of revenue into our community per year times 35 years, and we're still entertaining the idea of a tax abatement. I don't understand how the two connect. Now, I do think part of that is because solar is moving at a rate that is requiring our leaders to be reactive instead of proactive. That's shown with the commissioners who did the overlay and said they did it based on uneducated decisions, okay? I think we need to slow things down, and we have no business making decisions about abatements when we don't understand what these numbers are going to be as far as the negative impact on our community, the loss of revenue to our community, and I think it's things that really should be ironed out before we make these decisions. Am I getting really close? I'm sorry. One more thing.
You had 30 seconds left, so you can
Thanks, Andrew. The other issue I have is I've asked, where's this money going? And we've said, could go on trails, could go on broadband. Not sure that the community would favor that over it going into the general fund, lowering that tax base. But also, there is no budget set yet. Again, where we put the kind of the cart before the horse. We're looking at entertaining these conversations without having set avenues of what these funds are going to be used for and whether or not what they're going to be used for is worth losing millions of dollars in taxes. Fine? Okay.
All right, next. I'm sure you'll get other opportunities too, Jessica. All right, Jim Fyan? Give me that back.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today and speak with you. My name is Jim Finnan. I'm with a group called Hoosiers for Renewables. I'm their executive director. I reside at 51330 Pembridge Court in Granger, Indiana. That is in St. Joe County. I'm from Rush County, both counties of which have renewable energy projects going on as we speak. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today and also for the service you provide. I want to give you credit for what's ahead of you and what you've been working with in assessing all this information relative to renewable energy. Hoosiers for Renewables is a statewide organization that promotes education and advocacy for large-scale, utility-scale renewable energy development. That promotes both healthy counties as well as healthy economies. Projects you're looking at here today actually feed into that as well. We know what's going on within the state with the 21st century energy policy that's been ongoing. I'm not going to go, we're talking about ERA today, and so I want to focus attention to that. A little bit about my background that feeds into this is that I spent 30 years in the investor-owned utility industry, both with AEP and with CenterPoint. And so we know all those utilities are now focused on taking carbon, sustainable goals, removing coal off the grid. And so that's really an energy mix discussion as well that comes into play. But as we talk about the economic revitalization area, I know you're looking at this so that you can assess the abatement process. One thing that is growing here is this whole idea of a renewable climate, business climate. Here recently, there's been a steel manufacturer in Portage, Indiana, that committed to a 180 megawatt project to feed their power grid. And they made that decision based upon being local. They wanted to have a supply local because they wanted to create this, or they wanted to be a part of a climate where supported renewable energy. That brings further jobs to the particular area. This particular manufacturer or steel plant is formerly known as ArcelorMittal, and they're in Portage. And I bring that up because they are a steel industry that now owns its own ore and coke facilities, and they are the largest steel supplier of the auto industry in North America. And so that brings jobs to Indiana, jobs to the area. A couple of projects you may already be aware of that's nearby, just south of here in Jay County, Skycrest Solar, as well as Rose Gold Solar. Let me speak to the Skycrest Solar in Jay County. It's a $150 million investment. Has
Time, Jim.
That's it?
Yep.
3 minutes.
I wanted to point out, it's not going to him.
I know, I'm working,
Okay.
I'm working behind the scenes.
Just want to make sure everything was working.
Yes, I'm working behind the scenes with IT.
Well, I
and-
guess, do I need to walk out of the room and come back into the room like other speakers did today? Because,
I'm not sure about that.
yeah. As I'm walking away, what I will tell you is that the difference here is, as you're looking at the abatement process versus time.
It's fine.
He is.
Next person on the list is Reed Davis.
Hello, good morning.
Hi.
Hello, my name is Reed Davis. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Indiana Land and Liberty Coalition. I also serve as Executive Director of the Indiana Conservative Alliance for Energy. The Land and Liberty Coalition is our flagship program. We're a grassroots coalition consisting of farmers, landowners, private property rights advocates, and most importantly, conservatives. We travel the state attending local meetings just like this one, advocating for the private property rights of our members and ensuring that those rights are protected from government encroachment. We support an all of the above approach to energy. We support coal, natural gas, nuclear, and increasingly solar and wind. We also believe that farmers and landowners should have the right to do with their land what they please. If they want to farm crops, they should be allowed to do so. If they want to farm the sun, they should also be allowed to do so. Specifically today, I'm here to speak on the record in support of this ERA, or Economic Revitalization Area, in front of you. This is a preliminary but crucial first step in a long process that must not be overlooked. We at the Land and Liberty Coalition believe that you should approve the CRA resolution. Passing this and having an economic development agreement is the best way to ensure that the county can take full advantage and have full control over the financial proceeds from this project. Without it, the money will be heavily earmarked. This gives you control over how and when you want to distribute the enormous financial benefits that this project will bring in. This is a unique opportunity that is critical for the county to leverage. If you don't, some other county will, and DeKalb may be at risk of missing out. I urge you to take full advantage and capitalize on these unique circumstances before you. Although our organization supports an all-of-the-above approach to energy, not every county in Indiana has the opportunity to mine coal or produce natural gas. But every county in Indiana has the opportunity to harvest the energy of the sun and reap the economic benefits that follow. I hope DeKalb County is one of the counties that decides to take advantage of that fact. Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning and taking the time out of your busy schedules to serve your county. Thank you.
Reed. Next is Lamar Reinhardt. Lamar?
Was that the letter?
No, that was Lynn's.
Oh, okay.
Lynn sent his that he was not going to. Lamar? Well, I had one from Lynn that he was not going to be able to speak.
You said it could be read into the record.
Okay.
I don't know if you do that or not, though.
No, I'm not going to do that, but we'll put it in as part of the record, but we're not going to read it. All right. And that brings us to Ginger Miller. That letter from Lamar, we'll put it in the minutes of the meeting.
Good morning. I'm going to paraphrase the definition of what an economic revitalization area truly means. This definition comes straight from the Indiana Code. An ERA is defined as an area which has become undesirable for or impossible of normal development and occupancy because lack of development, cessation of growth, or other factors which prevent a normal development or use of property. The term economic revitalization area also includes an area of land classified as agricultural for property tax purposes that as a condition of being designated an ERA will be predominantly used for agricultural purposes. Regarding the property that's being considered as an ERA, is it currently productive farmland? If it is productive farmland, how can it be considered undesirable or impossible of normal development? We have reached out to multiple farmers recently, and here is just one that shared their yields over the past 3 years. Due to time constraints, I will not read 2020 or their 2021 yields. However, for 2022, their yields were 188 bushels per acre for corn, 60 bushels per acre for soybeans, 82 bushels per acre for wheat. This land is obviously not impossible of normal development, and I would bet that these results are typical for DeKalb County. This boils down to how can DeKalb County farm ground be designated as an ERA when it doesn't even closely match the definition in our Indiana Code? In fact, this land is the polar opposite of the definition of an ERA. This farm ground is not undesirable and there is no cessation of growth. This farm ground is able to have normal development and occupancy. There are no factors that prevent a normal use of the property. So why do we have state codes and local ordinances if they're not going to be followed? I'm going to ask 3 questions that I'd like answers to after I propose these 3 questions. 1, are any of the 3,000 acres initially being considered for ERA any less desirable than the other 160,000 acres of farmland in the county? 2, if you are willing to set a precedent by voting for an ERA for these 3,000 acres, are you willing to vote the same for another 10,000, 20,000, or 30,000 acres for industrial solar development? This is a valid question since we don't have a cap for solar in DeKalb County. 3rd, I've been advised that the county council recently, last year I believe, abandoned the approach of designating the entire county as an ERA. Why was that? So the last 3 questions, I'd love to hear your input.
Finished?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, that ends our public comment time. And we can go on to the next item on the agenda.
We get the answer.
No, public comment time is over.
I thought she was asking you, Rick.
No, the council has to answer together or separately, and that'll all be addressed if we do a public hearing and we vote on whether or not to designate the area. So this isn't the time for that.
Rick, I'd just like to add, I've heard it alluded to, I guess a couple of speakers said that, the companies were going to come whether the abatements were granted or not. And as an outcome of the tax abatement committee, that question was addressed to both companies directly. Would you still locate to DeKalb County if there was no abatement granted? And the answer to that was yes from both counties, or both companies. So you were correct on that.
All right. There's going to be much more comment on this if we do something next meeting. And if we don't do anything, if we vote not to proceed from here, I guess that'll end it right there. So, we do have 2 solar projects that are before us. The tax abatement committee has looked at both of them. We did go through the scoring sheets, and they both would qualify for 10 years of tax abatement. As I said earlier, the amount of tax abatement is up for discussion. That is definitely something that would be done by the council, full council in a regular meeting. So the only thing we need to do here is whether or not we're going to ask the council attorney to prepare the resolutions for one or both of the projects. If he is going to do that, we will have a public hearing at the January 10th meeting next month.
I'd like to request that we delay this vote because I just got handed the score sheets, and I haven't had a chance to go over them to look at them.
Well, no, I'm going to say no, Amy. If you want to vote against it because of that, you're within your rights to do
You're
that.
asking me to make a decision on paperwork
No,
that I've
I'm not
already
asking you to make a
literally-
decision. I am not asking you to make a decision on whether or not we grant them tax abatement.
Correct.
That
I understand
decision is going to be done after a public hearing next
Correct.
month.
Yeah, I
So you'll have
understand
a
that
whole
piece of it.
month to look at those.
Question is
Did she make it as a motion or is just a
I
comment?
will make it as a motion.
All right, I have a motion that we delay this decision until next month. Is there a second?
Second. Bring it up.
All right. Been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion on this? All right, the motion is that whether or not to delay this decision to ask for the economic revitalization area ordinances or resolutions. So let's do roll call.
And that's just to ask them to be prepared.
Ask them to be prepared, and then we would have the public hearing and make the decision next month.
On the ERA first.
On the ERA. We're not deciding on the tax abatement.
Then after
I mean,
that-
we can, we can declare it as an economic revitalization area, and you can still vote against the tax abatement based on what we decide will be the amount of the tax abatement. And again,
They are qualified for.
Yeah.
Correct, I understand that, but it would be helpful for me to have the information ahead of time so that I can look over it, and then if I have any questions, I could have asked them before we got to this point to vote.
but that's the point of next month. That's the point of.
No, I'm saying, no.
We're voting
just
on the ERA next
Right,
month.
no. What I'm saying is that I wanted this information so I could vote on the ERA.
Was that included, were these included in the packet?
The information that you used to get those scores were
In the packet?
the SB, whatever, all this stuff.
But
The
we're not-
SB ones and all the information that the companies
Right.
presented were in the packet.
But I did not have
And so
this
those answers go to the,
I understand that, but I didn't have this information. This is what the committee put together and is recommending to the council, and I would like to look over the
That is
recommendation of
not,
the abatement.
is that sheet not in the
the
packet?
scoring sheets are not.
They're not in the
The
packet.
application is in there, the application that goes to the council, the application is in there. The scoring sheets are not.
Okay, but the application is.
The application
Okay.
is
All right,
to get the answers for your scoring sheet.
okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Right.
It's
Exactly.
not
Yeah.
to approve the ERA resolution.
Correct.
Correct.
No,
Right,
'cause all
just to
that has
delay
to
the
have a
vote
public
until
hearing.
next week, or till next month is what I'm making the motion for, to delay the vote for another month.
We have a motion, we have a second, that we delay the request for the ERA, or the Economic Revitalization Area.
I think she's saying delay the vote, not delay asking.
No,
them to make sure.
that's, I think exactly what she's asking, is
You want
delay the
him-
vote for.
Right, delay the vote
making
for the
request.
ERA.
Right, till next month, which is when we're going to vote for it anyway, because he has to create the resolution first.
No.
She's saying to delay the vote to ask the attorney to prepare.
Correct.
Oh, to even ask her.
Yeah,
Oh,
so that's the point.
okay.
Yes.
So,
What?
all right, roll call vote.
An attorney with Prosser,
Yes.
Dembski. Yard,
Yes.
Kraft.
This is to
you're-
approve the motion to delay it.
Delay the request.
No, I don't want to delay the request.
Van Wy,
Yes, I mean, yes.
Ring.
No.
So 4-2.
4-2?
To delay
To delay it,
everything.
okay. The request to ask for the resolution will be delayed until January.
Thank you.
So just so public understands, that now is going to push us back another month longer. So thinking public hearing is going to happen in January or February is not going to happen.
Thank you.
Just so everybody knows.
All right. Is there any other business to come before the council? Well, and I thought it was with the packet that,
It's just our notes.
Thank
Right.
you.
What?
you know, that,
We're just kicking it down the road.
But see, we don't have to have another public hearing for this.
Just kicking it down the road a minute.
Yes, we do. This was not a public hearing.
Yeah, but to do what we did today, we just can vote on it next time.
We have not adjourned yet. If you could all please be quiet. Let's finish this thing.
all right. Going on, then that will, as Susan's already pointed out, we will, next month in January, vote on whether or not to make the request to have the economic revitalization area set. And that will be for either January 10th at 8:30 in the morning. Yep, yep. So anyway, that will push then back the, if we do request it, it'll push back to February when we have the public hearing. And then back into March, when we would actually discuss the actual tax abatement. I don't believe we could get all that in February, but maybe we can. So we're pushing it back, and that's going to delay any negotiations that the commissioners have on the economic development payment. So so everybody's aware of that. Tax Abatement Committee, moving on to the next topic. We have at least one, if not two, other tax abatement requests coming down. And the interesting thing on at least one of them, the Indiana State Legislature this year gave the farmers the ability to ask for tax abatement for their major expenditures, such as buildings or equipment. And it will reinforce the fact that tax abatement is no longer tied to job creation, but it's tied to the increase in the assessed valuation for the county, which is one thing that will help drive down the tax rate. So keep that in mind. And at some point here in the next 2 days, we'll figure out a time where we can have a next tax abatement committee meeting. So. Is there any other thing to come before the council? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to. Oh, here, forgot he was even going to be back there.
Hey, can you hear me better now?
Now we can hear you.
Great, thank you, council members. Councilmember Ring, just as a reminder for everyone in the room, my name is Kyle Restateras. I'm an attorney with Dentons in Indianapolis. My firm represents the solar project before you today. I just wanted to comment on one thing that Councilmember Ring brought to everyone's attention. There needs to be a separation between when the council would consider a preliminary resolution and when it would hold a public hearing. If the council votes in January to have the council's attorney draft a resolution for it to consider in February, once it approves that resolution, then there needs to be a period of time within which there is a notice published in the newspaper and there is notice sent to the different taxing units. The notice in the newspaper has to be at least 10 days. So unless you were to hold a special public hearing, I would anticipate that the public hearing to consider confirming the resolution and confirming the abatement would actually occur in March, at your March council meeting as opposed to your February meeting, because of the time that's needed to provide notice for the public hearing. So I just wanted to discuss that with the council and then also make that known to the general public who are still in the room.
That just reaffirms what we had already discussed. That's going to push everything back 30 days, our entire process. So if we were to have the public hearing and everything, that would be in February. We would decide to have the resolution. I got that. We'd ask you for the resolution in January, and then.
And in February, you vote on the ERA.
Yeah.
Get enough votes. Then if you get enough votes for the ERA, then you have your public hearing.
In March.
Either confirm or deny or amend.
Right.
ERA.
Correct. So, sorry for the audio, but I think that's one of the commissioners who was just making that comment. So the February meeting would be a public meeting of the council, there would be a public hearing at which you could have public comment in March. So President Ring, I think, you're correct that there's an additional delay, but your February meeting would be a public meeting, not a public hearing. Your March meeting would be a public hearing.
All of our meetings
Correct.
are public meetings,
Yeah.
except executive session.
But it just keeps pushing it back. Okay. All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate the comment.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order? Yes, Mike? Mm-hmm.
Lights on. Just a little piece of information as you kind of consider, because I know there's a lot of conversation outside of these meetings from individuals, as you're thinking about what path to go down with this. A local farmer who is considering some expansion has just requested SB1s and an abatement application. Or it probably would be the first opportunity you have to consider the newly approved abatements for ag applications. Follows the same procedure. If you decide that you want to give this local farmer an abatement on his expansion, you will have to declare his farm an economic revitalization area. Just that's part of the way it works. It's a label and nothing really else. But I just thought that might help you in your deliberations. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Thank you.
It's my last time I have to do that. And it's Amy's last time to second.
That's right. But you'll have to. That's right. Now you'll have to second.
Important job.
Oh, wait, counsel. Before you all get up and leave, we did have cake for Donna, which we still have, so we're all gonna have cake, all right, before you leave.
I'll do for cake.